Long-legged hermit crabs live mostly in shallow water, in common tide pools and salt marshes. Striped killfish swim up onto the salt marsh with the incoming tide and return to fresh water with low tide. These killfish can survive by burrowing into mud during low tides. Diamondback terrapins live in the brackish water of salt marshes, estuaries, and tidal creeks. They feed on fish, marine snails, crabs, and tidal mollusks, carrion clams, and worms. Grass shrimp move up onto the marsh surface during high tide, live in shallow waters along the Atlantic coast. Feed on plankton, horseshoe crabs, and isopods. The adults feed on salt marsh grasses, and their schools hang out in the upper parts of the marshes where they spawn. Horseshoe crabs spend most of their time on the bottom of shallow coastal areas. They feed on clams and worms, and they lay eggs on the land. Isopods are also known as beach hoppers. They're tiny crustaceans found in high areas of the marsh, such as cordgrasses. Next, we have the wildlife that lives on the marshland. First, we have the mallard duck, very colorful, feeds in shallow waters on the edges of the marshes. They feed on the other underground ribosomes, which are the roots of the plants that we studied about. We have the large ospreys. These birds prefer estuaries and salt marshes because it's easier for them to catch medium-sized fish since the waters are shallow. Next we have the long-legged waders. One of them is a mute swan. It feeds in the shallow waters at the edges of the marsh, uses the salt marshes as a stopover when migrating, catch a quick meal of small isopods and shrimp, and move on south. The American bittern. Its diet consists of fish and other aquatic life, as well as insects, amphibians, crayfish, and other mammals. Great blue heron. I'm sure we've all seen those along ponds, rivers, marshes. They feed on small fish, crabs, and other animals in the creeks. They build stick nests high up in trees, especially in groups. Finally, we have the glossy ibis. These birds wade through the shallow areas of the marsh, probing the mud with their long, curved bills to find food. This moth is called the soft marsh moth because it lives in the salt marsh. Their eggs are laid on clusters on plant leaves, range from pale yellow to dark brownish black.